Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about how to mid-round call in CS2. I'm going to tell you what a mid-round call is. After that I'm going to explain how to choose a finisher, which is going to be something which I'll dive into in the first point. Then we'll talk about executing the call and how to improve your mid-round calling. So stick through the whole video if you want to become a better IGL. First, let's start off with what is a mid-round call. A mid-round call will be a call that you're going to make after finishing the default or after taking the space, the control of the map, or taking an entry that you called for. So first you're going to have your early round call, which I can make another video about, and that's going to be basically you call a default or a call for some kind of play, like some kind of a, let's say you flash your A main player into A main, or somebody else flashes him into A main and then he goes for an entry or whatever. After that kind of a early round call, you make a mid round call after you finish the early stage. So let's say the early stage was just a normal default, you did like a 1-1-3, so you took control towards connector, you kind of have some control towards A main, and towards B the enemies didn't push, so towards B there's nothing to take, so your B player comes towards mid, and the enemy mid smoke fades, let's say. So you continue with the next stage of your default, where you, let's say, smoke window and you molly double doors with some kind of lineups. And after you do that, you have this area of the map. And you also have some kind of information. So you know what kind of utility the enemies used so far. Let's say they used 2 smokes towards connector already. That means they have no smokes on B most likely, unless they have a third person on B. They used 1 smoke on mid, and let's say they used 1 smoke on A main. If they did that, that means there's 1 smoke left and that smoke is left on the upper. The upper will either move towards A or B in the late round most likely, and it is way more likely that he moves towards B, so they probably have 1 smoke on B, and if they have nobody on mid, probably the mid player is going to play somewhere around here, and the opener is going to play either in tempo holding some kind of an angle, or he's going to completely play towards B. It's going to be one of the two. So you have to act based on that. You know that most likely the smoke will be towards B. So now you can choose your finisher. If the mid player used his molly towards here after you did your molly and smoke, then you know that they cannot stop you through camera. And what you can do is you can basically just smoke off connector with some kind of lineup, like let's say there's a lineup here, I think it's like this, and that smoke is going to land towards tempo, and with this smoke and a flashbang, which I don't know, but there's a flashbang that can pretty much flash the guy camera, and with that flash you can peek out and you can just go into an A split with that smoke, and they cannot molly you, they cannot smoke you, they cannot stop you in any way through camera, and they also cannot stop you in any way through main, because or they can stop you with a Molotov, but if they use the Molotov earlier on, obviously they wouldn't be able to. But let's say they didn't use the molly, the only thing that they can do towards main is they can molly, and if they basically like molly here, let's say, you just throw a smoke there and you can go through. And if you have 3 people towards main and 2 towards mid, how it should be on a split, you just go through camera and through main at the same time. So basically the mid player and the A player who are playing on A have to find in 2 directions, and it's going to be very difficult for them. So that's basically a really long and detailed example of how you can choose what to call mid round. So now I'm going to explain every detail that I kind of went through, but I didn't explain why and what. So basically I said what utility the enemies used, and you have to consider that all the time during every single round, no matter what. You have to know what your enemies are using, and that's going to come from your teammates. They're going to tell you they use a smoke cone, they use a second smoke cone, they use a smoke mid, or if you are on mid, then you know, okay, they use smoke mid, you don't need to say it, you just keep it in your mind, because what utility has been used matters to the IGL the most, because he has to think about the mid round call. It doesn't have to be other players thinking about the mid round call, it has to be the IGLs, and then the other players can obviously help. So you have to take into account what utility the enemy is using, you have to take into account what the positioning is. So basically, if you know for sure that there is one here, you have to find a way to counter that. If you know that there is one in tempo, you have to smoke him. If you know that there is 3 towards A, you probably do not want to go A, obviously. If there is 3 towards B, you probably need to find some kind of way, either to pull one out of B if you want to finish B, or you have to find a way to execute towards A or to split towards A, do something like that. You want to choose the side with the less people on it, and you want to choose the side that is more vulnerable in terms of how many players are on it, in terms of setup, in terms of how much utility they have left. Now let's go into a little bit more in detail of executing the call, because that's a very important thing. If you don't have your whole team on the same page in terms of how you execute a call, you're going to have a lot of issues, most likely, between the mid and late round. So what is going to happen is, if you don't have the strategy or tactic already taught to your teammates, what is going to happen is some people are going to miss utility, some people are going to miss timings, they're not going to know when to go out, they're not going to know exactly where to go to. So during the theory sessions, you have to teach your players, okay, if I say A split, player 1 does this, player 2 does that, player 3 does that, you give them instructions on what they need to do during this round, when they need to do it and how they need to do it. And that's a very important part of being an IGL. The other thing is, everyone needs to trust the call, because if there is no trust in the call is not going to work. If the players don't trust the call, they're not going to execute it with confidence. And when you don't execute it with confidence, you're going to not play well. And the call is not going to work. So you have to believe in the call in order for the call to work, because you need to execute the call with confidence. That's the only way it's going to work. Even if it's a bad call, I would prefer a bad call being executed with a lot of confidence than a good call being executed with no confidence. Because the bad call executed with confidence will be more likely to work than the good call with no confidence. Now let's talk on the last point, how to improve your mid-round calling as an IGL. One of the best things that you can do is, let's say you play a scrim, and after that you get the demo. It's very important to get demos from scrims, so you can learn from your mistakes and see what you are bad at. And you can also do the same with officials. You can play on official, and after you play the official, like from a league or tournament, you get the demo and you review. So what you need to do during the review is look at the game and look at your mid-round call, and then look at, okay, so I called A split. There was 3 people on A when I called A split. Let's see why that happened. What made the enemies go 3A? Was it because we made a lot of presence towards A main early? Was it because they lost some kind of control towards A? Was it because they were kind of in a bad setup, so they were forced to go 3A, but we should have known that they were in a bad setup that forced them to go 3A, and we should have executed B? You have to basically look at what the enemies did and why they did it. Look at the rotations and try to explain to yourself, okay, why did they rotate like that? How can I manipulate rotations so I use the rotations of the enemy to my benefit? So basically, the best way to improve your mid-round calling is to learn from demos, learn from your own mistakes, and learn from enemy reactions, and also think about how you would react during that mid-round call, and think about why it would work or why it wouldn't work. So if you enjoyed the video, if you learned something new, if it helped you with your mid-round calling, you can leave a like and you can subscribe to my channel to not miss out on any upcoming content. Thank you for watching.